Oh, thank you so much for joining me today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, why not? My name is Katie Ledford. I am a junior at Vanderbilt University right now. That's where I'm in my dorm. I am a music major in the Blair School of Music. I'm from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. It's about 30 minutes south of Nashville, if you've been to Nashville. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
What's your major?
So it's kind of a really long, annoying title, but I'll give it to you anyway. It's basically integrated studies with a concentration in music education and vocal performance. And then I have a minor in cognitive studies.
What is cognitive studies?
It's kind of a more generalized version of psychology.
Mm,
So I started as a psych minor. I started as a performance major and a psych minor, and then I switched to the music education major, and then switched my minor from psych to cog studies, which kind of gives you more access to different classes, if that makes sense. So I
mm,
it's more like whatever I want to learn about, I can find a class, and it's more likely to fit under the cognitive studies title than it may fit
yeah.
in the psychology title. So yeah.
So what made you interested in taking cog studies instead of only doing music?
Yeah, I think honestly, I while I'm at Vanderbilt, I want to kind of maximize my time here. And so learning
Mm,
about things that I'm even a little bit interested in, it's very possible that I won't even complete my minor by my senior year. But I mean, knowledge is free. Like I'm gonna,
yeah.
like I don't really care about what's on my diploma. But I really like learning about how people learn and I like learning about the brain. And so obviously, because we don't know that much about it,
Mm,
and as someone who's kind of in the business slash education realm in music, it's very helpful to know kind of how like groups function and how people learn and kind of to look out for specific things and ways to handle situations that are kind of, inspired and influenced by what I know about people and how they think. So yeah.
do you think
Kind of
cognitive studies has helped your jazz and all of that stuff, your music major stuff?
That's a good question. I'd say since Vanderbilt's jazz program is kind of up and coming, I haven't had a whole lot of experience being able to put it straight into action, but I can also talk about from the perspective of being in the classroom. And so just learning about being a teacher and leading a room has helped, like knowing how people think has helped with that because you know how people are motivated. And so, like, with something as simple, and this is kind of applicable wherever you are, especially in music. But if you know how people think and you know how people are motivated, how are you going to get them to learn, like, measure 1 to 24 by the time you want them to learn it? Like, you can
Mm,
incentivize them. It depends on the age group of the kids. Like obviously college students are going to be motivated by different things than a second grader is, at learning something musical. So I don't think it's necessarily split up into like, oh, it works this way in jazz and it works this way in my like classical studies. Because I guess technically I'm a classical voice major.
mm.
Yeah, I'd say it kind of is more generally in the classroom applicable in there than yeah.
So would you say that you have a favorite between jazz or classical?
No, I love whatever
No?
I'm singing. Yeah.
No.
I think I know, which is kind of a boring answer. I think a lot of people, to me, I kind of roll my eyes when people say that, but honestly, it's kind of true. Like, there are things in classical that I love, and there are things in classical that I'm like, eh. And then there are things
Yeah.
in jazz that I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then there are things in jazz that I'm like, eh. So, it
Yeah.
kind of depends on what you're singing. I try and pick rep in the genre that really fits my voice, which I think is another thing to be talked about with instrumentalists, like you're all kind of aiming at a specific sound, I'd say. And it's more, of course, everyone has their specific tone and their musicality is different. But I think with a voice, because there's no way to like change what's in here, you
Hmm.
can, use things like effects and whatnot to create different sounds. But it's so personalized to you that you kind of choose things based off of what fits your voice best. And obviously, if it fits my voice well, I'm going to want to sing it more and then I'll sing it
Yeah.
more. And the more I sing, I'm like, the more I love it. And, it's kind of like an ongoing cycle.
What kind of repertoire do you think like your jazz music kind of falls under? Like which songs?
Yeah, so ironically, when I first started out, like not that long ago, I'd say a lot of people gave me the ballads because I had a very lyrical and kind of musical quality about my voice. And recently, I feel like I've been experimenting a little with more of like the beltier side, and I think it's a little bit of my musical theater side coming
Hmm.
out, and more like poppy. But again, it's like my friend and I, Catherine, were just talking about this the other day, is she's very great at like these really high mixy songs and they're very like big crowd pleasers and stuff. And my voice, I kind of have more of a richer like middle belt than she does. And so it's just like talking about different strengths of your voice. So I'd say because of my musicality, I've gotten a lot of like that middly belty range songs that
Hmm.
are kind of like upbeat. Like we did Sweet Pumpkin and you heard that. That one's kind of like
Hmm.
middly. And then something like Autumn in New York is very, very slow, very lyrical. Anything that's kind of up in the upper range, just because my upper range is like stronger, I'd say,
Hmm.
than my lower range, like would probably be my strength. So a lot of my early teachers would give me rep based off of the quality of my voice,
Yeah.
which I've already said. But yeah, that's how they chose rep, which is crazy, but
Do you
it's
have a
kind of
few songs that you like always have on standby that you're ready to sing?
for jazz or classical.
Jazz.
For jazz. One of the first ones, I think this might have been the very first jazz standard I sang was I've Never Been in Love Before. And
Hmm.
that one's just really beautiful. That's a classic. But because it was the first one, like that's the one that I always have in my brain.
Hmm.
Also we did Sunnyside and I love
Yeah.
Sunnyside because again, that's like in the like middle belty
Yeah.
place. So I really like that one if someone's wanting more of an up-tempo one. Let me think of Autumn in New York we did, which was really nice. And that's always kind of in the back of my brain.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd say those are some that I really enjoy.
When you find these songs, what is your way of figuring out what key you sing them in?
Um, I find kind of, well, first I establish like what's the main section of a song. It's kind of like reading a book and finding like what is the takeaway of this book. It's like what's the takeaway
Hmm.
of the song? And I want to make sure that the takeaway of the song is the focus of the song that I'm singing and in the most like the best place in my voice. So commonly like I'll listen to a bunch of different recordings and I'll be singing along and I'll be like, "Oh, that was kind of low. I can't really do that." And so I'll be like, "Okay,
Hmm.
well maybe but if I knock it up like up a major third, it's like then those higher notes aren't going to be able to sound as clear. So then it's like you find a middle ground and you say, okay, maybe it's a little lower on this end, but the main part of the song is like really strong, and that's kind of like maybe where my voice works its best is
Yeah.
in, I mean, it depends on the song, but like in whatever place. So I kind of base it off of that. Commonly I'll be listening to songs and I'll be like, oh, I love this part, and then I'll just sing it over and over again. And like that's how I'll decide. I'll be like, okay, so that fits well in my voice. Or it's like, okay, well, this artist sings it in this key. I think I could bump it up like a whole step and I could still sing it pretty strong. And so
Yeah.
like sometimes I'll do that. But yeah, it really is like what is best with your voice, because whatever is best for your voice and where it's like kind of how your voice has been made is what you're gonna want to sing because it sounds the best, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Do you think it's possible to increase your range? Let's say you want to sing a song in like A flat along with a recording, but you can't reach the low note. Is it possible to reach that note ever?
That's a really good question. A lot of people ask me this, ironically, for women's voices or female voices, you're a little more limited. For a guy's voice, you have a crazy big range, very generally.
Hmm.
You can always strengthen your upper range and you can absolutely strengthen your lower range. In my experience, it is much more difficult to lower your range. You can't, it's not like practicing altissimo on an instrument and like you can just keep
Hmm.
going higher with more practice. Like your voice is like a muscle. So it's a little finite, it's not much you
Yeah.
can do to kind of change it. So the more things you practice, the stronger those notes will be. Like if I'm singing alto in a choir and I really want to keep up my soprano range, I'm going to have to put in more work in my practice time to keep up my soprano range and make sure that it's strong. But if I didn't, it's very possible I would lose like I don't know, like a three half steps of my normal range. So
Hmm.
it's kind of about upkeep. I'd say again, it's a lot easier to extend your upper range than it is your lower range. I feel like your lower range, at least in my experience, it's kind of already set. You might be able to extend it if you kind of live in the basement a lot, if you're like an alto two in choir.
Hmm.
It also depends on where you speak in your voice. Like I have a naturally lower speaking voice, and so a lot, which fun fact, everyone speaks, this is a general question, this is a general like statement, but everyone speaks lower than they should. So like, you know how like you know like the clips of Ariana Grande and she's like
Yeah.
talking up here and she kind of sounds like funny and yada yada yada. That's her protecting her voice. And like
Yeah.
seriously, and like that's exactly where she should be speaking to protect her voice. My choir director did it and I always was like whatever. But now that I'm a singer, I'm like, oh shoot. Like anyway, it's like
How
really
does that
once
protect your voice?
well, if you're constantly talking in a place that is not as comfortable, like if I'm talking all the way down here, I'm kind of like forcing my larynx down,
Hmm.
and that is fatiguing over
Hmm.
time. And so if you're talking up here in a place that's really comfortable and really mixy, but I sound kind of ditzy and like a Disney princess a little bit, it's like I don't think I always joke. I'm like, I don't think people would take me seriously if I talked like that.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just a sense of protecting your voice. I mean, if you're performing all the time, you can't, you still want to be able to talk as much as you can, but in a healthy way that doesn't fatigue your voice for like a
Yeah.
performance.
Is that
So,
why vocalists will go on like vocal rest if they have a really big concert coming up, they won't speak?
yeah. That's a big thing. A lot of the times it's just resting your cords, making sure they're at, max capacity for the
Hmm.
performance, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Hmm. So for classical music, you can't just change the key on a song. So what do you do? Have you ever been in a situation where you can't reach a note or you can't sing low enough?
Um, you absolutely can change keys. It's not as normal as in jazz. Like there are definitely you'll get like the classic like arias for high voice or arias for mezzo sopranos, and those keys are kind of set. I've definitely changed some keys before, especially for like the very common like art songs that people
Hmm.
sing. Um, yeah, wait, hang on. I'm trying to remember back to your question. You were asking, oh, if I couldn't sing a note. No, like I can't. It's not maybe necessarily that I couldn't sing the note. It's probably more to the effect of I wasn't super confident in like how it sounded. And maybe like, for instance, I was working on a French piece, and there was a high C in it. And that's like for my age, that's a really high note for where my
Hmm.
voice is developmentally. And I can hit a high C, but it's like, would I want to put it on stage? That's another
Yeah.
question. That's another question. So we are kind of just thinking of things, kind of get arounds of that. So like it was at the
Hmm.
beginning, and it was kind of this I don't even know. It was this fun like la 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 da, 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 da. It was kind of like a march entrance thing, and you
Hmm.
could easily change it. So I think I ended up actually changing it. Um, I'd say very rarely would you ever be in an educational setting specifically, or just in a setting in general, and pick a song that was out of your range. So it's
Hmm.
the same thing with instrumentalists. It's like
Yeah.
piano's a little different because you have like this is your range, and you have a big range.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. I think I have the biggest range out of any instrument.
probably, yeah. Yeah,
So I don't really
probably.
have that problem.
Yeah, no, that's a fair question then. But yeah, I'd say no one would want to pick a song if it's like out
Hmm.
of instrumental or vocal range. So
So I know for instrumentalists, there's some keys that are like harder to play in than others. They'll go flat or
yeah,
they'll be sharp. Are there keys
yeah.
like that for vocalists where it's
Yeah, I
harder to
mean, it's
sing in?
all, yeah, no, that's so fair. It's all individual. I mean, playing clarinet, it's like, that B with like all your
Hmm.
fingers down is like a sucky note. Like it's just awful. But again, it's like with vocalists, and that's on every clarinet. It's not just
Yeah.
like some players, but with vocalists, it's what I was just kind of trying to explain is for every voice, like an A in my voice sounds and feels completely different for like if you were to sing an A, or if
Hmm.
even if it was another female voice. So there's not really keys that are like more difficult to sing in, but you do have to know your voice really well and know,
Yeah.
okay, like and it changes, which kind of sucks. It
Hmm.
changes a lot. Like right now, I'm having issues with uh F at the top of the staff, F and G. There's like
Yeah.
I've never had issues with those two notes, but where I am, because like I just turned 20, where I am developmentally in my voice, it's like those notes kind of cause me issues. So like maybe like F major, when a F is at the end of the song that I'm sustaining for super long, I'm like, maybe I'm not gonna want to pick a song in F major or a song in a key that kind of hangs out around that area. I definitely do that to build up my skills, but those wouldn't be songs that I would want to put like in an audition immediately,
Hmm.
just because those areas are like a struggle sometimes, at least now. But
Yeah.
yeah, you just have to know your voice and know what fits it well, you know.
Hmm. Do you have a favorite key?
I don't. I really don't. I'm a very like I listen, which is crazy because I feel like a lot of instrumentalists are like, oh, I just love this key. I'd say with jazz standards, I kind of go around like G and A flat a lot. I'd
Hmm.
say A flat probably because A
I
flat's
think that's what we did Sunnyside in.
I think we did too, yeah, because A flat is like one of the lower notes of my voice that I'm like, I always know that I have. I
Hmm.
think sometimes, especially if I'm like singing in the stratosphere for like choir or something, and then they're like in my part, I'm like an it's like a G or like a F sharp that's like below that A flat. I'm like, I don't know if I can hit that right now. But like A flat I always got. So I feel like
Hmm.
that's probably a common key that I pick. But
Have you ever sung big band?
no, no. I mean, I sang like in a when I was in high school, this was like my first experience with singing with a jazz band. It was NYJ, Nashville Youth Jazz Ensemble,
Hmm.
and it like kind of was a big band, but I mean, again, it was like a high school experience.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When you're learning a song, do you focus on the words first or do you focus on the harmony first?
Mm, I would say I think my answer is different depending on what genre you're talking. So I'll start with my roots. I'll start with classical. I am a sucker for the harmony in classical.
Hmm.
I love French music so much. I love the romantic music. It's also I think what's best fits my voice and kind of like, you know, the timbre of my voice. And that is so rich in harmony, so rich in harmony.
Hmm.
And it's just beautiful and the text painting, like I think a lot of composers in the classical world they compose not for the words, they compose they express the meaning not necessarily through the words itself, but more through the combination of the words and the harmony and the melody, which I think like yes, you can say that for every song, but it's just so it's like when you hear some of these pieces by like Ravel or Fauré, it's like you just sit there and you're like, wow, like that
Hmm.
sounds beautiful. And I think on the opposite side for jazz, I think learning jazz charts, I'm so much more drawn to the words because I think you build your expression, at least this is how I do it, you build your
Hmm.
expression off of the meaning of the text. And that doesn't mean that it
Yeah.
doesn't happen in classical. I would just say for the style, the time period that I like to sing in, um, it's more, I would say more harmony focused. And, you know,
Hmm.
that's kind of like the shining star of the piece rather than necessarily the words.
Yeah.
Um, Especially being in America and singing in a bunch of different languages because
Yeah, it's
half
got to be
the time
harder.
you're singing, yeah, it's like you're singing in all these languages and like they kind
The
of
words
joke.
mean nothing to you.
Well, exactly. It's like if you don't speak French, you don't know like what Nuit d'étoiles means. I'm like, you don't know
Yeah.
I'm singing about the stars, you know?
Yeah.
Jazz, I think it's special because it's more conversational, and you can be fun with it. And yeah, I would say that there's definitely like two sides to that coin.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you said that you played clarinet. Do you think that's ever impacted the way that you sing?
Yes, and in a bad way. Like genuinely.
Really?
Yeah, it's really bad. I used to have my clarinet lessons in high school, or I would practice and I would go to my voice lesson after. And my
Hmm.
teacher, who she's in the awesome musical theater teacher, Erica Aubrey at Belmont, she was like, you must have just played your clarinet. And I was like, how do you know that? Like, how did you know that? She's like, because your jaw is so tense. And I was like, oh. So I didn't know that playing an instrument like that could affect my vocal technique.
Hmm.
And also even with, and this is really interesting, even with like runs or like if you're like practicing a scale on the piano, like even me singing scales or scalar patterns that are like super fast, like in my brain, I have to like shut off the part of my brain that's like, okay, and now all my fingers are moving this fast and I'm pressing these buttons to do it because it brings in like too much of a sense of control. And
Hmm.
ironically, the more control you try and exercise over your voice, at least with things with mobility and agility, the worse off you are because you're trying to
Hmm.
control it and it's not free to move. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, I would say unfortunately playing clarinet has kind of physically
Hmm.
been a
So do
struggle.
you
But
regret playing clarinet?
oh heck no, no. That's how I learned music. That's how I can read rhythms. Like seriously.
Yeah.
Like there's a I feel bad, but like there's a reason that vocalists kind of get dogged on a lot of the time for not knowing their rhythms and being able to sight read is because they're just I mean, and it's a flaw in music education. It's not a flaw in the vocalists. It's a flaw in what they are taught in schools. But in band, like you're learning key signatures, you're learning rhythms. I remember like my first day in like my music theory dual enrollment class, my junior year of high school. And my friend Paige, who I love so dearly, she had not learned, she was purely a choir student. She wasn't in band. She had
Hmm.
to start from the ground up, like learning key signatures, learning how to count rhythms, how to split them up. And in my head, I was like, I am so lucky that I
Hmm.
already know this and I'm not
Yeah.
having to like sight read these chorales and like not even know what key it's in. It's like that's insane. I'm so lucky that I am able to like see that and know it. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
I feel like piano students also struggle with reading rhythms a lot because solo
Hmm.
piano, especially in classical music, tends to be rubato. So you can listen to the
Oh,
song and just feel the song out. But let's say if you start to play in like you're playing a march with very strict time, it's very hard for most pianists to read the rhythm because
never
they
think about
rush or drag.
that. Yeah,
Most classical pianists tend to rush a lot if they're playing trying to stay on time because they feel it like a speed up if you're being on
yeah.
time. But I do feel like learning another instrument outside of your primary instrument always helps with something that your first instrument didn't do.
Oh, absolutely.
Because outside of piano, I'm a percussionist as well, and
Yeah.
that's the complete opposite of piano. Like it's all
Yeah,
about
literally.
how you feel your time.
Yeah,
So learning percussion instruments and the way that they're played really helps apply that to other things like piano.
for sure. That's very true. And as I'm like learning different instruments, like I took a semester of guitar last year, and that was really helpful, like learning to read tabs and just it's like a different, it's like learning different ways to say the same thing. You know, it's like,
Hmm.
learning different languages to say the same thing. It all kind
Yeah.
of informs each other, which is really nice. So that's a good point.
Do you think that you sing ballads better or up-tempo songs? Because we were talking about that earlier. So
Oh
do you have a
yeah.
preference?
Um, again, this is like picky. It depends on the song.
Hmm.
Uh, oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I think it's tough because I can sing some of like the crowd pleaser stuff, and I'm trying
Hmm.
not to connect like people's love for maybe one song for
Yeah,
like
to
me being
your
able to
love for the
sing it.
song.
Yeah, to like being able to sing it best. I'd say honestly probably ballads, even though I want to say
Hmm.
like up tempo songs because they're more fun sometimes. But I do really love singing lyrically, and I think because my background is classical and also just with my tone, I think it just matches so well. And I do have a lot of fun being expressive in ballads and being able to kind of like go above what normally I hear on a jazz ballad like that. So
Hmm.
I'd say ballads, but I'm like, I don't really know. That's a tough question.
What are your top three ballads, would you say?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I have to have the right answer. I'm
No, there's
like,
no right answer.
no, I know, but I'm like, I know like I'm gonna get off this interview. I'm gonna be like, oh, I should have said this song.
Yeah.
Um, I really like When I Fall in Love. When I Fall in Love. That was really beautiful. I actually, okay, this is random. This may not make the top three list, but listening to LST for two, almost in a ballad
Hmm.
style, is just so beautiful. I
Yeah.
love these.
Have you heard Blossom Deary's version of that song?
Yeah, she's
It's
yeah.
very, very slow. Most
Yeah.
vocalists I hear tend to take that song very slow, and most instrumentalists really like to play that song very fast.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. After listening to Barbara Global Jazz sing Stardust,
Hmm.
I've had that on repeat, like literally
Yeah.
all the time. It's so beautiful. And I've listened to so many different recordings of it. And oh, I love that song. It's so good.
Hmm.
Yeah, Stardust is a really good one. Yeah, I'd say those are some ones that are some of my favorites. I'll let you know if I think of another one. I might have to pull up my playlist later and figure it out.
So, have you ever tried to improvise before?
I've tried. I'm not
Yeah.
not very well versed in the improv world. Yeah, I think for me a lot of it is just learning. I don't know if I mean you'd have to tell me if this is the same for instrumentalists, but like I just listen to a bunch of recordings, copy what I
Hmm.
can, and then whenever I'm trying to like learn my own version of a song, like whenever I learned Sweet Pumpkin, since I didn't know it going into the program, I listened to a bunch of different recordings and then kind of took and
Yeah.
stole, made my own version of it. Um, so that's kind of how I go about it now. I mean, I'm very new to
Yeah.
it, but yeah, I've tried.
I mean, that's basically the gist of it.
Oh, okay.
Whenever, especially for an instrumentalist, it's very hard to get your own sound because for a vocalist, you have your own timbre, you have your
Yeah, it's
own
already
voice.
your own. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And when you're like an instrumentalist, you really want to listen to a bunch of different recordings from different people and hear like how they phrase certain things. Like on piano, you can't really hold notes or sustain them for too long, but some people will find very interesting ways to keep notes moving. They'll arpeggiate it or
yeah.
they'll just let it ring as long as possible. So
Mm,
it's really cool and really good to listen to a bunch of different recordings and just try to internalize what they've done
yeah.
and not necessarily try to replicate anything from a specific recording, but once you've listened to a bunch of different recordings, you kind of have internalized that sound and then you
Yeah,
can try
that's
to
such
produce it.
yeah.
Have you ever had like a performance go horribly wrong before?
Yes, I have. And I love this story. So this is really funny. Actually it's not funny because it actually made me really sad when it happened, but obviously like it happens to the best of us. I was which this was so long ago. So it's like I don't know why I get worked up over it, but it just makes me laugh thinking about it. I was asked to sing the national anthem. I know you already know where this is going. I was listening to the national anthem when I was in like seventh grade for a
Hmm.
state track event, and there were like 2,000 people there, which was a big deal. When I was in seventh grade, that was a big deal. And still, if I had to perform in
That
front of
still
2,000
is a lot of
people, that's
people.
still a lot of people. And I forgot the words. And my mom on the sidelines was like, she was like mouthing the words. So I got back on. Like I don't
Hmm.
even know I don't even think it was that bad, but I think in my brain,
Because
like I
you, yeah,
have yeah, in my brain I was like, oh shoot, like it's
yeah.
terrible. So that happened. That's always the one I go back to. I had like I taught like this first year class at Vanderbilt as like a student leader. It's like a whole thing we do. And we're actually in the middle of it right now. But
Hmm.
I told my first years that story because I was like, see, here's something
Yeah,
really embarrassing about me when I was in seventh grade. So that's what went horribly wrong. It's
yeah. On the other side, do you think you've had like a best performance or a greatest one that you
okay.
remember?
Mm, I have like two things that kind of come to mind. I don't think anyone has necessarily like a perfect or
Yeah.
I feel like as a musician, we all leave and we're like, "Meh." Like, oh, I could
Eh.
have done this better and I could have done this. But I think like the moments that I've had that I've come away from and been like, wow, like I'm really proud of myself for that was I was cast as the witch in Into the Woods in my senior year
Hmm.
of high school, and it terrified me so bad because I am like Cinderella voice through and through. That is my
Hmm.
vocal part. That was safe. I never learned to belt up until then when I learned I was cast as the witch. And she is this, I don't know if you're familiar with Into the Woods, but she is
Hmm.
the witch is like like the alto
Yeah.
part of it, like of musical theater. Like she's like
Hmm.
the girl. And I was like, in my head, I was like, why would they cast me as this? So anyway, I go through and I work with Erica Aubrey, the teacher I talked with
Yeah.
earlier, Belmont. She's an amazing teacher. And I remember I called her. I was at a football game with the band, and I was called her.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Girl," I was like, "they cast me as the witch," and she was like, "Oh, well, that's okay. Like we'll work on it." I worked so hard on that role, and I remember we only had two shows, and
Hmm.
it was double cast. And I remember like the last night, like the last performance, I was like, dang, like when you just have a good performance, you're like, wow,
Yeah.
I did really well. Like that's
Yeah.
how I felt. And I think I feel like a big sense of pride about it because I worked really hard for that since it wasn't something that came naturally
Yeah.
out of all. And she's like the girl in the show too. So I'm like, ooh, I was really
Yeah.
definitely that one. Actually, yeah, I think I'd just leave it at that. That was definitely the performance that I was
Hmm.
like probably most proud of thus far.
Yeah. If you had to go back and learn all of your classical music again, what do you think the best way to improve your voice would be?
The biggest the biggest thing that I see young musicians, including myself, miss is how to practice. We're
Hmm.
never taught how to practice. I honestly didn't know what was considered practicing. I kind of just went with the flow. I think a lot of, especially high achieving musicians, you can kind of just bank on your talent for a long time. A lot of us have that experience. And then there's a
Hmm.
point in your life when you get like slapped in the face and you're like, you actually got to put work into this. And then, like, I think something I've really kind of figured out in college is I just don't like, I was never taught how to practice, how to like write down my practice sessions and going in with really, I think they talked about, I forget who it was, someone had a master class at the Global Jazz Workshop who mentioned something
Hmm.
like this, but it's so true. Like going in with a goal, like going in and saying, this is what I'm going to achieve and make it reasonable. You can't be like, oh, I need to learn this 8-minute aria and I have 30
Hmm.
minutes in this practice room. It's like, obviously, that's not a good idea. So it's like breaking things down, being able to figure out what you're going to practice, how you're going to practice it, talking with your teacher, like setting up these habits because you can have it's so hard to break a habit that you really want to focus on building the right ones.
Hmm.
So that's just been my experience is I think making myself a more successful musician, it would be figuring out what a practice session looks like. And honestly, just asking people what works for them and
Hmm.
being willing to spend the time to figure out what works for me by kind of, just through trial and error. Like I think some
Hmm.
people, at least in my head, sometimes I think that I'm wasting time like doing the things that other people have done, and but it's not a waste of time. Absolutely, it's not a waste of time because you're figuring out what works for you. And
Yeah.
when you do, it was worth your time. So
Yeah.
I would say that's the advice. Like if I could go back and give myself, that's what I would say.
Well, great. It was great talking to you.
Wait, this was so fun. Thanks for the interview.